As we're getting into the later parts of winter now, Leo is just starting to crest its way over the back trees on my deck, which is pretty exciting because I always enjoy checking out some of the galaxies that are associated with Leo into Virgo. So tonight, I pointed my scope in between a couple of the stars within the neck of Leo and decided to sketch up NGC 3193 and 3190. 3187 is also within the eyepiece here, but it was really tough to see. And even though I think I actually did kind of mark it down, I wasn't confident enough to really say that I saw it. So starting out the sketches, I accidentally started with my fountain pen, old habits, and switching back over to the pencil to get in the first pass at all of the star placements. It's definitely been really helpful switching over to pencil first, just so I can do things like that, erasing and readjusting super quickly. It's allowed me to be a lot more accurate with my initial placement of the stars. And then, I think overall the sketch itself just has become a lot more accurate because of this. Tonight, Leo was just about 50 degrees above the horizon, pretty much due east. And like I said, just coming up over the redwood trees around, I think it was around 10:30 in the evening or so when I started out the sketch. On the 10-inch daub, I've got my Stellar View wide field, 15 millimeter eyepiece in there. I also threw on an Orion Skyglow broadband filter, which helped just give a little bit more contrast. I wouldn't say that it really made anything necessarily pop, but it did allow me to separate the galaxies a little bit from the hazy skies up above. In general tonight, the skies are pretty decent, still Bortle 7 like usual, but definitely a little bit less haze and a little bit better seeing than, I would say, super average nights. I also, to get in some of the additional details, that's about partway through, I did switch over to my Antares W70 eyepiece, which is a 5.7 millimeter. Not necessarily the best eyepiece, but I find that it works really well for deep sky stuff. Mainly because it allows me to, for whatever reason, it feels like it gathers more light. Like I can see things that are a little bit dimmer with it, and it has a nice wide 70-degree field, apparent field of view, so it allows me to kind of just take a lot more of whatever it is, the galaxy or the nebula or the cluster, into view. So taking a little bit of time here after I've gotten, I think, the stars placed for the most part to just observe in the dark. Because these things are so faint in there, I find that it really is important to take some time to really look at it, let your eyes adjust in between sketching sessions. I'm grabbing a little of the Conte and getting it onto the smudge tool here. We're going to get into actually drawing out some. The galaxy that was the most visible for me was 3193, which it almost felt like it was a subtle halo around the clouds, and that's kind of what I'm drawing out here on the right side. That little blob that I put on the left was NGC 3190, which was also apparent but not quite as readily visible in the eyepiece. So I was kind of going back and forth between the two of these, just getting the general shaping in there and the general size. 3193 on the right there, it was cool because the more that I was looking at it, I would definitely catch glimpses of different interesting shapings within there. I don't know if I really saw a spiral per se, but it definitely felt like there were defined wispy shapes that I was trying to mark into the sketch as best that I could. Both of these galaxies are pretty dim. I believe that 3193 on the right there is 10.88 magnitude, and 3190 is 11.13, at least on stellarium that I'm looking at. And so it is difficult to be able to make out all of the details when you're going back and forth between staring at a bright uh, sketchbook and then going into the eyepiece. That's why there's so many periods here that I'm just going full black and just trying to observe as best that I can. As I was doing my observing of the galaxies and using the red light and the no light to observe, I was definitely pulling out a couple other more subtle stars in the area, so I was trying to mark these down as well. So around this point, I thought it would be good to switch over to the higher magnification. So I took out the broadband filter and removed the 15 millimeter and switched over to the Antares 5.7 millimeter eyepiece. I decided not to use a filter on this just because I wanted to pull in as much light as I could with the closer magnification. And it definitely helped to be able to spot just a little bit more detail within the galaxies themselves. On the bottom there, on the bottom left, that little smudge there. After looking at the star charts when I got back inside, I realized that that was definitely the area of NGC 3187, and I will say that like I definitely was seeing stuff popping in and out of view, but like I said, I couldn't really 100% verify it. I wasn't sure if it was like some random nebulosity that I was seeing or if there was actually something there. So left it off of my chart in terms of actually seeing it, but there was definitely something that I did sketch in. Part of the question mark about whether or not that was there or not was also because of what I'm sketching in here very lightly, which is basically this overall haze that felt like it was very distinctly in the eyepiece. If I would shake it or move it to different places, there was this nebulosity that felt like it was always staying in place, and it kind of hovered across that area of NGC 3193 on the right, as well as taking up a lot of the bottom half of the eyepiece as well. And so some of that uh, drawing in of the NGC 3187, which is that lower left smudge there, I wasn't 100% confident if that was actually a galaxy or if it was just this kind of nebulosity that I was seeing everywhere else. This was really fun getting into some of the details of the galaxies themselves and really trying to mark out what I was seeing pretty specifically. Uh, for this galaxy here in the higher section, it was pretty clear that it was at an angle, about at 45 degrees in the eyepiece, and fairly oval and long through there. So just there wasn't a whole lot of detail that I was able to make out, but that was pretty apparent. And then for 3193, which I'm continuing to sketch out here, it was pretty apparent that there was some sort of swirly shapes going on, but it was hard to tell exactly what I was looking at without exactly knowing what the shape was. Again, lots of time in the dark here, just taking my time to observe as much as I could. And then here, like I was saying, I'm filling in some of that general haze that I was seeing that was floating through the sky, which was clearly in space. It wasn't like in the atmosphere. It was clear because whenever I shook the telescope or if I moved it in a different place, that haziness stayed with the stars. It didn't move with the telescope. So it was definitely up there. Overall, pretty happy with how it all turned out. I really enjoyed the fact that like I was throwing in some smudges on the bottom left there that ended up being in the same spot as 31 NGC 3187, the galaxy that sits there. Even though I don't feel like I could see it super clearly enough to really say that that was definitely it when I was observing it and sketching it, there's some validation in the fact that like when I researched or when I went back and took a look at the star charts that it actually there's something was there. And it's the same with the haze as well. I feel like it looks like there is a little bit of nebulosity just kind of floating through that area. And so it feels to me like that's probably what I was picking up on when I was sketching that stuff out. The drawing to the right here of M95 is an upcoming galaxy that I drew out that another video will be posted of that fairly shortly.